So if you've been feeling completely lost, disconnected, or just plain exhausted lately, what if I told you that you aren't actually failing? What if, honestly, this is just the very first entirely necessary step of your greatest transformation? In this explainer, we're going to decode the profoundly deep teachings of Neville Goddard to understand exactly how our inner state creates our external reality. We're going to unpack the actual mechanics behind this metamorphosis, because getting a grip on this, it could change absolutely everything about how you approach your life. First things first, let's just stop and validate exactly where you are right now. If everything in your life feels like these scattered, totally meaningless pieces, and you're just entirely drained by your old routines, while this quiet, burning restlessness keeps you awake at night, please do not rush to label that as a failure. Don't call it depression. You know that heavy, sinking feeling in your chest when you look at a life that used to perfectly satisfy you? As our source material points out, you're actually standing right at an invisible threshold of growth. The transition from one state of being to another almost always feels terribly disorienting. It feels like you're losing your way, when in reality, you're just losing your old self. I mean, we all kind of naturally expect growth to just arrive like magic, right? With a round of applause, these dramatic overnight breakthroughs, and absolute crystal clarity. But the reality? Every real transformation actually begins with immense inner chaos and discomfort. When life starts lifting you to a higher level of awareness, the things, the habits, and even the people that once fit you perfectly, they just start falling away. And it's rarely exciting at first. It's profoundly uncomfortable because it requires you to shed the very identity that has made you feel safe and secure for years. Which brings us to a really perfect metaphor for the exact season you might be in right now, the cocoon phase. Think about it biologically. A caterpillar cannot just sprout wings and become a butterfly while keeping its old, comfortable body. Inside that chrysalis, it literally dissolves into this microscopic, completely disorganized genetic goo before it can rebuild itself entirely. You aren't losing your life. You are dissolving a version of yourself that has become far too small to contain the person you are actually becoming. Every emotional collapse you're experiencing, it's literally just clearing the necessary space for a higher spiritual structure to emerge. And this leads us directly into Neville Goddard's core philosophy. Reality follows consciousness. You simply cannot create a completely new external reality while white-knuckling your old, limited identity. The external world is essentially just a giant mirror, and it's forced to reorganize itself to match whatever your new inner state is. If your consciousness elevates, your old life naturally starts feeling completely misaligned, almost like you're walking around wearing someone else's clothes. So, the crucial takeaway here is that life doesn't reflect what you want most, it reflects who you firmly believe you are at the deepest possible level. There is literally nothing to change but self. If you want a different life, well, you have to become a different person. Let's say you want to manifest true financial freedom. You cannot do that if internally you're constantly rehearsing a narrative of being broke and unworthy of wealth. That internal shift in how you view your own capabilities, that has to happen first. Goddard actually warns us about this dynamic with this really powerful, almost haunting phrase. Assumption hardens into fact. The internal story that you repeat to yourself every single day eventually builds an invisible cage around your life. Whether you secretly believe you're untalented, notoriously unlucky, or just fundamentally unworthy of love, your brain is going to constantly scan your environment for evidence to confirm that exact belief. If your daily baseline assumption is that you are lacking something, life will dutifully continue reflecting that lack right back at you, in your relationships, your career, your finances. Let's actually map out the exact pipeline of how this works. First, your subconscious mind accepts your internal belief as the absolute truth, no questions asked. That deep belief then dictates your emotional state on a daily basis. That emotion drives your actions, or in a lot of cases, it drives your procrastination and your hesitation. And ultimately, those repeated actions manifest your external reality. You aren't being held back by some unfair outside world. Your repeated subconscious beliefs are building your reality, step by literal step, every single day. Now, understanding this leads to a massive paradigm shift. We so frequently confuse laziness with a fear of success. You know that intense procrastination you've been brutally beating yourself up over lately? Often, it isn't laziness at all. It's a deep psychological terror of what will actually happen if you step into your true potential. Because think about it, if you succeed, nothing can stay the same. You're going to outgrow people, old habits have to die, and the expectations on you will rise. And frankly, that absolutely terrifies the ego. This is exactly why self-sabotage is so incredibly common. A lot of people stay stuck and actively reject really big opportunities because the human brain actually prefers the predictability of a painful, limited life over the terrifying unfamiliarity of a highly successful one. We desperately crave familiarity. We're terrified of losing our old crowd, and we secretly prioritize emotional safety and comfort over actual, deep happiness. We go right back to our old, limiting identities simply because we know exactly who we are in that smaller space. We hear the word energy all the time, right? And we usually think of some invisible magic or mystical force. But as these teachings explain, energy is really just the emotional state you carry when nobody is watching you. Think about walking into a job interview where you're already expecting rejection. Your posture, your tone, your microexpressions, they all broadcast defeat before you even sit down in the chair. Living daily in fear, scarcity, and self-doubt limits you before the outside world even gets a chance to say yes. Your inner state makes the decision first. Which perfectly explains why your daily energy is everything, bringing us to Goddard's ultimate key to creating reality. Feeling is the secret. Your subconscious mind does not care about the outer words you say. You can repeat positive affirmations in the mirror until you are blue in the face, but your subconscious only responds to the emotions you repeatedly embody. If you spend every single day feeling chronically insecure, that feeling is the exact blueprint your subconscious is using to build your tomorrow. So, how do we overcome this? It requires a practice Goddard calls living in the end. You have to become the confident, successful, completely abundant version of yourself internally first, because belief must absolutely precede evidence. Now, this is profoundly difficult for most people. We want the raise to feel valued, or we want the relationship to finally feel loved. But if you wait for life to confirm your value, you're going to stay trapped in a mindset of lack forever. You literally must generate the feeling of having it before it ever arrives. But here is exactly where so many of us trip up. Obsession entirely stops manifestation. Waking up and frantically checking your bank account every 2 hours, endlessly seeking validation from your peers, constantly asking the universe, okay, when is it going to happen? These desperate actions actually keep you trapped. Why? Because desperately checking for proof sends a powerful, undeniable signal to your subconscious that you do not have what you desire. You're still living in the state of lack, which just pushes your goal further away. Ultimately, it really comes down to a choice between two distinctly different modes of operating: chasing life versus changing your state. When you chase life, you're panicking, you're begging, you're trying to brute force things to happen from a place of intense desperation. But the second you stop desperately chasing and instead focus on feeling whole internally, acting from a place of deep trust, it's wild, but doors mysteriously begin to open. Opportunities naturally gravitate towards someone who isn't radiating the chaotic energy of panic. This transformation happens in what we can call the invisible season. And look, preparation is often painfully, agonizingly boring. Real change doesn't happen in these explosive overnight moments. It is built during the quiet, totally unglamorous days of repeated small actions. It's choosing discipline over procrastination and taking action despite your fear, long before any visible results appear in the physical world. Just like a seed stays underground in the dark for a long time before breaking the surface, you need time to establish deep roots internally. Now, we really have to ask a tough question here. Are you confusing awareness with transformation? Watching hundreds of self-improvement videos, listening to podcasts, and perfectly understanding the mechanics of manifestation is not going to save you. It is incredibly easy to become an educated underachiever. Awareness can wake you up, sure, but only sustained action creates movement. True clarity, unshakable confidence, and real momentum are only created through daily and sometimes very uncomfortable physical action. So let me leave you with this. If life treats you exactly how you treat yourself, are you ready to raise your inner standards today? Your new life is not created in some distant, magical future. It is created by the thoughts, the assumptions, and the decisions you make right now in this exact second. Stop waiting for permission to outgrow your old self. Leave the toxic environments and the limiting beliefs in the past, and rewrite your self-concept today. Because the version of you that achieves absolutely everything you want, they're already inside you, just waiting for you to stop playing small.